Here is the solution, or one solution to the assignment that was a little free form. We want to do a few things. We want to count coins and not points. We want to design an interface, a UI that uses coins and that uses the coins icon, and we want to pad the coins count with zeros. So I'm going to first remove the scoring system from the enemy. So let me open the enemy scene. I'll open Keymon as well for that. And the enemy adds 100 points every time you kill them. So I'm going to go to the script editor and remove the score related lines. You can use directly Control X to cut entire lines in the script editor. Now you want to remove the variable at the top of the script and the player data.score plus equals score at the end. All right, first step done. Then everything happens in, well, we want to change the coin as well. Before I forget, we want to change it to add 1 point, which we can change here, or we can go to the script to change the default. So score is going to be 1, and that's enough for now. We could also change score to value. Yeah, we could rename that variable in the project. If you are going to completely remove the score system and only have coins, you might want to do that. But for now, for this assignment, it's fine. We don't need to bother. Now we need to bother with the interface, the more difficult parts here. So I'm going to open the user interface scene, and we want to remove that score label here, or to replace it. So here's how I solved it, and I'm going to explain the steps as I go. I'm going to create first a color rectangle, and that color rectangle will serve as the background for my UI. So first I'll change the color to a transparent black so that it just acts as an overlay over the background, making the user interface a bit easier to read. I'll put it at the top of the list here and go to layout, top right, so that it moves and it is anchored relative to the top right corner of the screen. I'm going to resize it to set the size of my UI widget and click and drag over it to set its margins. So when you move a control node, you are changing the margin properties, which are relative to the anchor point, the top right of the screen here, the top right of the user interface. Inside of that, I'm going to add a container. So color rect, I'm going to add an HBox container. This may seem counterintuitive. You put a container inside a widget, but keep in mind that every control node is a box in Godot, and you can put anything you want in that box, including a container. All a container does is take control over everything you put inside of it, its direct children. So first, I'm going to make this container the size of the the color rectangle, sorry. And to do so, you want to use the layout menu. You can set it to full rectangle and observe that it takes the size of the color rectangle, its parent. The layout options are always relative to the parent of the node. And now we can put stuff inside the container. So first, I'm going to unhide my score label and click and drag it inside the HBox container. It's going to be automatically placed to the left here. Then, with the HBox container selected, I'm going to add my coin icon. So you want to add a texture rectangle whenever you want to add some kind of sprite or icon inside a UI layout. But I'm going to show you how to add it from the assets folder, because you can also do it with drag and drop. So I'll get my coin and click and drag and keep the Alt key down before I release. This gives you a menu where you can select the type of the added sprite or texture, and you can choose texture rect. The coin gets added after the score label, so I'm going to reorder the nodes in the scene tree so that the coin is on the left. Now I want to center the coin vertically, or center it inside its box here. And for that, you need to change the stretch mode on the node. This controls how the texture that you have here, the texture property, so our sprite, is being rendered, how it scales, how it's going to behave inside its box. You can change it to keep centered. It's going to center it inside the box. Now I want to show you that we can add margins to that texture, not by going to margin, but by going to the rectangle. So the rectangle category controls the rectangle that we have here that contains the UI component. The thing is, when you have an HBox container, you can see that if you select the coin or the score, you don't have the handles to manually resize the node. You have to go through the properties and in particular set a minimum size if you want it to have a hard-coded minimum size. So here I can say I want a min size of 100, and this is going to give us a bit of space on either side of the coin texture. You can't change the size because this is what the HBox container controls here. It directly resizes the node. You can see that because we set the minimum size to 100, the size is set to the minimum of the width of the texture or our minimum size 100. We can lower that a little bit if we want. Let's say 90 pixels should be enough. This is just so we have some space between the left edge of the color rectangle, the coin, and the score. Now for the score, I'm going to write it the way I want it in the end. So I want 3 digits, like so. And we're going to see from the code how to change that. But first, I want to see how it looks on the user interface. And it leaves a lot of space, empty space on the right. So I can do a few things. I can resize the color rectangle. The color rectangle contains the container that resizes with it. So you really want to resize the color rectangle. Then I can select the HBox container and change the alignment property to center. And with that, the 2 elements are going to center inside of it. Very little issue, because of the margin of the coin, the text gets a bit off center. It gets pushed to the right a little bit. To fix that, we can reset the work we did on the coin. So remove the minimum size so that the coin collapses. And if you want to add some space between the coin and the text, there is some, as you can see, there are a few pixels. And this is controlled again by the HBox container. So you can go down to custom constants and change the separation to a value in pixels. Let's say 12 pixels. And voila, we have a little more space between the two. 8 seems like it would work better to me. Yeah, a little better. And I will stop there for now. This shows you that even if I'm comfortable with that system, you can see the complexity, that it needs a bit of juggling between the different nodes, and you have to build an understanding of what the properties do through quite a bit of practice. So there's a lot of trial and error at first until you've wrapped your head around the system. If you are struggling with it, just again, that is completely normal. Everyone in the team, we are professional developers, and when we first got to working with that, we all made mistakes at GDQuest, and I know that it should be the same for everyone. So take it slow and steady, build small setups like this one, 4 nodes, you can see, until you get it and you can start to build something more complex. But now, if we play the game, we're going to have that thing where the text will still be set to score, something. We want to change that. So let's go to the user interface code and move down to the place where we update the score label. Now, we're going to remove the part where we use string interpolation, the modulo s sign here. and use player data.score directly. You will get an error that the type does not match. Player data.score is a number, a whole number, an integer, as you can see at the bottom, and the text expects a text string. So we can wrap this in a call to the string function, str, and this function from GScript is going to convert a number into a text string. So it's going to give you 1, 2, 3, whatever, but in a string format. And from there, because now the result of this function is a string object, we can use a function to add zeros in front of the text. So I'll go to the docs in the editor with F4 and look for the string class, which is the type of object we're going to get. And in this class, if I go down, well, I'm going to search for pad, and you have two functions to pad decimals and pad zeros here. So pad zeros is going to take a number of digits that you want in the final string, and it's going to add zeros based on the number of digits. So for example, if we say, so you put a dot because this is a method that has been defined on the string class that you want to call, and we're going to call pad zeros with 3 digits. So if the score is 0 to 9, it's only going to add 2 zeros in front of it, making it a total of 3 digits. If the score is 10 to 99, it's only going to add 1 0, etc. Right, so now we can play the game. Oh, I forgot something important. Let's see the error. This is something very common. You get this error, it's not valid to set text on base null reference or null instance. What's happening? Well, our score label was set to the result of get node score. So we were trying to get a node called score right under user interface, but we've moved it in our hbox container, right? So now we have to update the path in our code. So in the get node function or after the $, you can type score to get an auto completion down to the score node. Colorect / hbox container / score. And with that, play the game, and you should not get an error anymore. There we go. So we start at a score of 0, and when we get coins, the score, or rather the coins count, increases by 1. I'm going to jump on the enemy to show you that when I killed the enemy, the coins count, or our score, did not update anymore. And all we do is get coins now. So you can see, as a result, how you can not only code a score system, but also a system where you get some resources or currency in your game. This coins count get preserved to the end of the game, where, well, we'll get the text that the score is equal to 32 and you died 0 times. This is fine as far as I'm concerned. We have done everything we had to do as part of this exercise. Now, please share your result in the questions or the discussions you can start below the video. And if you could also tell me what you thought of the assignment, if it was too hard, if it had too many hints, it's probably a bit hard. This one is really a challenge for this course, I think. But at the same time, this UI system, it's a little hard, to be honest. That's part of the framework, I'm afraid. But with that, I want to thank you kindly for watching. Be creative, have fun. See you in the next one.